Hi everybody, welcome. My name's Cath. I'm the Sparkspace librarian here at the Spartan Break Headquarters Library. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make a seed bomb using the seed bomb DIY kits that we've been putting together for you at your branches. So let's get started. Without further ado, this is going to be our really cool Earth Day craft, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So to start off with, we're going to get our DIY kit. We're going to need a bowl to mix in, a cup to put your water and your paper in, a towel, and some water to cover your paper, just enough to cover it, whatever that takes. So we're going to open up our DIY kit. You can reuse this paper bag, which is why I'm taking out the staple. And so you should have about a cup or 8 ounces of paper, your instructions. And so get your instructions. So this gives you a list of supplies as well as the instructions, what you'll need, but I'm going to be going over it step by step, so you can set that to the side. Also, your seed packet. May not feel like there's a lot of seeds in there, but there are, and your coffee filter. So to start off with, you can just look through your paper for any kind of big pieces like this, and you can tear them up. You'll want them to be about thumbnail size. So, and I'm going to go ahead and tear up a couple of the pieces that I see that are kind of big. There are a few kind of really thick pieces of paper and some really long pieces that I put off to the side, but yeah, you're just going to want to make sure they're evenly sized pieces of paper. The smaller they are, the easier it's going to be to make your paper paste, so you just want to make sure they're thoroughly torn up. So I'm going to grab my cup. This is what I'm going to put my paper in and add my water to. I'm just going to stuff my paper down in the cup, getting it, as much of it in the cup as I can, and kind of pressing down to get it compact. I'm just going to put all of this off to the side. So this is going to be my cup. The biggest thing is you're going to want to make sure that you have enough water to cover all of your paper so that all of your paper is submerged. Once you have the water above the level of your paper, you're just going to make sure it's all kind of stuck down under the water. And then you're going to want to let this sit for 15 minutes. If you have time, you can let it sit for more. This is what my paper looks like after 15 minutes. You can see the water starting to get cloudy, which means that the paper is pretty wet. And so at this point, you are going to want to start mushing up your paper with your fingers, like so, just kind of rubbing it back and forth to try and get the pieces of paper to start to kind of disintegrate and separate. It should be able to stick together at this point, but you'll want to just continue to mush it for about 10 minutes. If you have a blender, you can do this in the blender. You'll just add your paper and enough water to cover it and then blend on high for 15 to 20 seconds. If you don't have a blender, you can smush it together with your hands. I'm also going to show you another way to go about this by putting it in a Ziploc bag for anyone who has any kind of sensitivities to getting your fingers gross and messy. So you'll just do this for about 10 to 15 minutes until your paper is started to pulp. So here is this again, it's the same thing but just in a Ziploc bag. You're going to want to have enough water to cover it, but not so much water that it is leaking out of your bag, and you're going to want to make sure you get almost all the air out of it, and then you're just going to squish it together. The same thing for 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm just squishing it and kind of rolling it back and forth in between my fingers to break up that paper. Right here I'm kind of rubbing it back and forth with some friction just to see if that helps it pulp up anymore. Okay, so this is what my paper looks like after about 10 to 15 minutes of kind of squishing it in there. You can see that the paper has started to kind of break apart And there's still pieces of paper, individual pieces of paper you can kind of see in there, but for the most part, a lot of it is squished up and is, as you can see, kind of feathery on the edges. And this is what you're going to want it to look like. You don't want it to be, you know, complete pieces of paper that are not really sticking together, but you don't also want it to be, you know, complete liquid. So what I'm going to do is time to drain off this water. So I'm going to open up my coffee filter over my bowl, get out my excess little pieces of paper, set my filter up, and I'm just going to dump everything in here into the coffee filter. So all the water, all of the paper, as much of the paper. Just went in to get the little bits at the bottom. Okay. Well. So now once you get all the paper off your fingers, you're just going to very gently squeeze this to get the excess water out. But you don't want to squeeze all the water out at this step. You just want to get about half of the water out. Then you're going to open up your filter, and you're going to see that your paper pulp is kind of sticking together. And you're going to see those little threads of paper just sticking together between each other, and that is that you want it to be able to stick together and stick to itself. So zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. Now it is time to add your seed packet. Just tap all the seeds to the bottom to make sure they don't all fall out the top. And then you're just going to gently sprinkle your seeds over your paper pulp. So this is about how many seeds are in your packet. So they could look like this. They could be purple. If your seeds are purple, then that means they came out of our seed library. These are a mix of annuals, perennials, wildflower type varieties. So there could be really anything in here. I don't have a full list, but if you would like one, I can send it to you. So this is what it should look like. You should have seeds all over your paper pulp. They should be kind of covering it. And at this point, you're just going to fold your paper pulp on top of itself to kind of get those seeds into the middle. And just kind of slightly press them into your seeds. And now you can wrap it back up and squeeze 75% of the water out at this point. You're going to want to be able to unwrap this, and it will be still damp to the touch, and you'll want it to be that way so that whenever you start to break it into smaller pieces, it's still going to stick to each other. If you get it too dry, it's not going to stick very well. So you're just going to roll these kind of into a bowl. I want to squeeze more of the water out. Just rolling it and squeezing it to try and get as much of the water out as possible with your hands, but see, there's still seeds in there. So it doesn't matter if your seeds are on the outside or not. If they're all on the inside, that's fine. Your seed bomb will work either way. So then you're just going to repeat this 2 to 3 more times, depending on how big you want your seed bombs. You're just going to want to squeeze. You're going to squeeze as much water out as you can here. And then squeeze again and get all that water out. And just kind of form them into little balls. So here are your 4 seed balls. Now you're just going to grab a towel or a paper towel and squeeze any remaining moisture out that you can with your hand and with your towel. And you do this because if you just leave them as they are for a couple of days in a warm windowsill and they're still really moist, the seeds will start to germinate and grow, which is fine, but you really want your seed bombs to grow outside. So you're just trying to get them as dry as you can now so that they can finish the rest of their time drying in the sun. So just squeeze it again. Okay, and there's all 4 of your seed bombs, and they are basically done at this point. This is what they look like when they're still wet and just freshly made. I'm going to show you some ones that I made that are already dried. But yeah, you'll just want to plant these in your yard. You can kind of throw them in the yard anywhere, or you can bury them in the dirt if you want. You don't want them to be buried very deep, because these need a lot of sun, about 6 to 8 hours of sunlight, and they will start to germinate in about 14 to 21 days, and so then you should start to see little sprouts coming out of these. Alright, but these are ones that I made last week. They're already dry, and this is what they'll look like. They'll just be very, very hard and dry whenever you first get them. So before you plant them, you'll want to wet them a little bit, and then that will start to get them warm and ready to grow. And here are the ones we just made, the finished product. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you have a happy Earth Day. If you want to take a picture of these, you can tag us on Instagram, Facebook, and we would love to see what you guys create. Happy Earth Day. Thanks. Bye.